Good day, everyone. This is Johnamy Milanan, a BS Ed major in science. Today, we will be talking about the Victorian era. The Victorian era was started on 1830 to 1910. The 19th century was one of the rapid development and change, far swifter than in previous centuries. During this period, England changed from a rural agricultural country to an urban industrialized one. This involved massive dislocation and radically altered the nature of society. It took many years for both government and people to adjust to the new conditions. There are sample agricultural design that I want you to look at. First is this one, the Painted Ladies in San Francisco. So this building is a Victorian era building sitting in the heart of the Alamo Square Historic District of San Francisco. Painted Ladies are the oldest row of housing in the residential area, built in the late Victorian age. The Painted Ladies were one of the most elegant, royal, and affordable homes of their time, regarded by the Queen Anne Victorians. The second one is the Royal Albert Hall, which located in London. It was designed by Francis Folk. Royal Albert Hall is themed over the Renaissance style during the prime hours of Queen Victoria. The elliptical hall is fabricated in red brick with a broad iron truss supporting a glass ceiling, further supported by a ring. The Royal Albert Hall is designed to base concert and meetings for over 8,000 people at once, with the intricate planning and materials selected merged with history and culture. Royal Albert Hall stands tall while Victorian agriculture flourishes in the world. The third one is the Wedding Cake House. This square brick home in Kennebec, Maine was originally built in 1826. Like many homes in the Victorian era, it was covered in wooden Gothic decoration in 1850 to keep up with agricultural trends. The fourth is the Ruston House Museum, located in Phoenix, USA. Ruston House is a periodic design based on Queen Anne style with Eastlake detailing. Architect Alexander P. Petit designed a context-sensitive house for the Ruston family. The skin of the house is 1 foot thick red clay brick braced with timber to provide sufficient insulation. Typical Victorian elements consisted of the wrap-around veranda with post top with four gables, punched with barge boards and screens. The turret windows have signatures of Victorian molds, arches, detail, and decorative features. The roof ridges with a cresting profile framing the house as a fine Victorian structure. The Victorian artworks. First, as what you have seen in this picture, is the Ophelia. The Ophelia was created during 1851 to 1852 by John Everett Millais. Ophelia is one of the most well-known pictures from Shakespeare. Millais' model was a 19-year-old lady named Elizabeth Siddal. She stood in a bathtub filled with water for Millais to give the appearance of Ophelia drowning in the water. Second artwork is The Love and Pilgrim, 1897 by Edward Burne-Jones. Love and Pilgrim, he based it on the Chaucer's Romance of the Rose, in which the loving God helps a pilgrim on his journey for passion and devotion. And the third one is The Lady of Shalott, 1888 by John William Waterhouse, wherein This is the scene shown in Waterhouse artwork. As the woman departs to meet her fate, she is shown sitting on the fabric she created. The woman's boat is outfitted with a lamp in a bow across towards the stern. Three candles are placed next to the cross, and the candles were a symbol of life. Next artwork are Elaine, 1865 by Emma Sandys. Fifth is the portrait of Lady Agnew of Lucknow, 1892 by John Singer Sargent. And lastly is the Flaming June, 1895 by Frederick Leighton. The motif and the characteristics of Victorian era. This is a 2 to 3 story abode and is usually large that imposes wood or stone externally. It is complicated and asymmetrical in nature, steep, multifaceted, and towering, especially as what you have seen on the different architectural designs of the Victorian era. Their homes and buildings have these intricate designs, wood, stones, and different designs that is you can extinguish that these designs are from the Victorian era. Next is the historical background. A common mental image of a Victorian home looks much like a dollhouse with elaborate trim and bright colors. But the term Victorian architecture actually refers to styles that emerged in the period between 1830 to 1910. During the reign of Queen Victoria, the Victorian era spawned several well-known styles including Gothic Revival, Italianate, Second Empire, Queen Anne, Stick style, Romanesque style, and Shingle style. Architects took the ideas of Gothic architecture and added French, Italian, Tudor, and even Egyptian details, wherein these styles was combined to create a much more very delicate style of a Victorian era style. As the arts and crafts movement began to hit America, critics accused the Victorians of needless complexity and clutter, advocating a more streamlined, handcrafted home. The style fell out of fashion but is still very prevalent in historic communities around the country. Alright, since we already talked about the historical background of the Victorian era, now we'll be talking about the famous person during the Victorian era. So first, alright, this is Queen Victoria. Queen Victoria is a monarch of England during the Victorian era. She was a powerful and influential figure of all time. She was a strong advocate for women's rights and played a major role in advancing the status of women in society. And also, Queen Victoria was champion of the arts and helped to make England a leading cultural force in the world. Second famous person. Alright, this is Prince Albert. So Prince Albert was the husband and consort of the Queen Victoria, wherein he was a significant influence on his wife. He is best known for his intense and successful mentoring of Queen Victoria, wherein Queen Victoria was still a teenager when she ascended the throne. Right, the third one is Charles Dickens. Charles Dickens is one of the most famous and popular authors of the Victorian era, wherein he wrote novels, short stories that capture the essence of life of the England people. And also, he was a master of written word, and his stories was full of humor, pathos, and social commentary. Fourth person, it was John Ruskin. John Ruskin was an English author, artist, and a critic. He was a major figure in the Victorian art world, wherein Ruskin was a passionate advocate for the arts and believed that they should be accessible to all people. He also championed the concepts of art for art's sake and believed that artists should be free to create. He was also an influential, and his ideas were continued to studied and debated until now. So since there were many famous person of Victorian era, I took only four famous person, and that would be all for the lesson about the Victorian era. Thank you.